All right, we've got to talk about a huge development in the Pi network. This is a really big deal. We're seeing a major shift from that simple mobile mining phase to something that looks a lot like a full-blown financial ecosystem. So let's dive right in. Yeah, that's right. If you're one of the tens of millions of people who've been tapping that button on your phone, you need to pay attention. The network just took a giant leap forward. And trust me, this isn't some small tweak. This is a foundational, game-changing update.
So, where did this news come from? Well, it all went down at the massive crypto conference, Token 2049. Pi Network's founder, Dr. Chengdiao Fan, actually got up on stage and announced the platform's next big evolution. So, what exactly did she pull the curtain back on?
Okay, here's the core of it. 3 powerful new features are officially live on the Pi testnet. We're talking a decentralized exchange, or a DEX, an automated market maker, or an AMM, and even tools for anyone to create their own tokens. This is basically the essential toolkit for decentralized finance, or DeFi. Now hold on, before anybody gets too carried away, it's absolutely crucial to understand that this is all happening on the testnet. What does that mean? It means it's a testing environment, a sandbox. These features are definitely headed for the mainnet, but for right now, it's all about experimentation. DEX, AMM? These acronyms might sound super complex and intimidating, but honestly, the concepts behind them are surprisingly straightforward. So let's just take a second and break down what this new toolkit is really all about. Okay, first up, a DEX. The best way to think of it is like a community-run farmer's market. You can trade your stuff, in this case digital tokens, directly with another person. There's no big bank or corporation sitting in the middle, taking a cut or holding your funds. You are always in control, and that is a massive difference from traditional finance. So, if the DEX is the farmer's market, then the automated market maker, the AMM, is the smart system that makes the whole thing work so smoothly. Instead of trying to match up one specific buyer with one specific seller, it uses these big pools of tokens, they're called liquidity pools, to automatically figure out prices and make trades happen instantly. It's the engine that keeps that whole market running. Now this is where it gets really interesting when you see the side-by-side comparison. Over on the left, you've got the new Pi model. It's a community-run protocol where you're in charge of your own funds, and it's open for anyone to build on. And on the right, you have the old traditional model. A single company owns the whole platform, they hold on to your money, and their system is totally closed off. We're talking about 2 completely different philosophies.
So, that kind of begs the question, right? Why launch all this awesome new stuff on a test network first? Well, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's actually a very smart and deliberate strategy. The whole idea is to create this giant sandbox where millions of people can learn how things work without any real-world financial risk.
So this is what your journey into Pi's new DeFi world is going to look like. You'll get to use Test Pi, which is basically play money with 0 real-world value, and you can just experiment freely. You can practice swapping tokens, see what happens when you add to liquidity pools. You get to understand the mechanics in a hands-on, totally safe way. The goal here is to build up financial literacy across the entire network, so that when this stuff goes live for real on mainnet, everyone is ready. And this whole strategy, this learn before you earn approach, it ties directly into the Pi network's core philosophy. See, they're playing a completely different game than a lot of the crypto world. They are laser-focused on one word, utility. And this quote from Dr. Fan's speech just says it all. She made it crystal clear that the goal is to ensure that tokens exist for functionality rather than for speculation. They want tokens that do things, that have a real purpose, not just assets that people gamble on. This really puts Pi's approach in sharp contrast with something like, say, meme coins. Look, meme coins can build massive communities for sure, but they're often driven purely by hype and speculation, and they usually lack any real utility. Pi is trying to build something more sustainable, where tokens are actually integrated into apps and services that people use every day. But here's the thing to remember. These new DeFi tools aren't just being dropped into an empty field. They're being plugged into a massive, pre-existing infrastructure that Pi has been carefully building for years. So let's take a look at how that creates such a powerful foundation for what's next. So what's the biggest asset in this whole ecosystem? It's the people, the community. We are talking about tens of millions of real KYC-verified members spread all across the globe. Just think about that for a second. If you're a developer, that is an enormous built-in audience just waiting to test, use, and give feedback on your app.
So when you put all the pieces together, you really start to see the full picture. You've got the KYC system, which makes sure everyone is a real person. You've got the Pi wallet, which is the tool for every transaction. You've got that massive integrated audience. And now you're adding these new DEX and AMM features, which give developers the sophisticated financial tools they need to build some really amazing applications. Okay, so let's bring this all home. We've gone through the tech, we've talked about the philosophy, the ecosystem, but what does all of this really mean for the average Pi user, for the pioneers who have been here all along?
Here's the bottom line. First, you now have a totally risk-free playground to learn about decentralized finance. Second, this proves the network is taking real, concrete steps toward a fully functional open mainnet. And third, with these new tools in the hands of developers, you should expect to see a whole new wave of useful apps and services. You're not just in some random crypto project, you are part of a very structured, utility-first Web3 ecosystem.
And that really leaves us with one big final question to think about. In a world that is so often dominated by hype and speculation, Pi is making this huge bet on building for real-world utility first. Is this slower, steadier, more purposeful approach the actual key to long-term sustainable growth? Could this be the future of crypto? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.